Welcome to Do What Matters Most. This is episode 11 in the series Parent Leadership for 21st Century Children. There are several things you can do to create a great formula for success as a parent leader of children in this generation. In this episode, you will find descriptions of the 5 types of growth and development you're working toward, and how to apply 10 impact practices that increase the possibility of your parenting success. Learning these will give you a set of tools that will help you feel confident that what you are doing is the right thing for your children. Visit mattersmostmedia.org to find more about the podcast and firstanswers.com to find tons of parenting resources.
As we begin this episode, please remember that I am proposing that the kind of leadership we need has a unique quality or characteristic of adaptingness, the ability to make adaptations to individual children, to the conditions our children face, to what's happening in your family so you can help them grow in development. I also propose that instead of being reactionary or letting things happen and then us reacting to them, it's better if we're intentional and that if we have some strategy in mind. Then we got to the episode last time, and it was about the idea that we need to put together the nurturing and predictable and clear parenting for children birth to 5. See, clear and predictable and nurturing are the adaptations you'd make for children that age. Then inside that particular age, I've said we want to promote the growth and development of our children. And I have proposed 5 different kinds of development. These are the things that go on in life, and they're happening in your family, whether you're aware of them or not. And so this just helps you break them out and helps you understand them individually. So the 5 types I'm proposing are physical growth, mental development and growth, social development, emotional, and moral. And I am proposing that those 5 types of development and growth are the types of growth that parents want their children to make. It gives their children a healthy, well-rounded personality and identity. It allows them to be successful in their relationships, to learn how to do work, and so on. I've also proposed to you that you make your family like a learning lab where you put things in place and you use the conditions in your family like rules and work and relationships and parental example to help children learn. In the last episode, I proposed to you that I can show you how this works by applying it to children from birth to 5 years of age. And the following examples are intended to help you see how the process of nurturing children's successful growth or development can also include using the 10 impact parenting practices. Now, you probably have forgotten some of them, but I'll remind you as we go through this. So, for example, if you wanted to use your family to promote physical development and be intentional doing it, then here's what physical development is: walking, running, toilet training, accurate gender information, sleeping on a schedule, rhythm coordination, and a positive body image. There's a lot of others. But to use those as an example, here's what you would do. You'd provide space and opportunities for children to move around instead of put them in a crib and confine them. Touch and move children's bodies to simulate walking. Communicate with them about the names of their body parts and communicate about what they like about their bodies. Nice legs, beautiful hands, etc. Encourage children to crawl before walking and realize that physical movement is controlled by brain growth. So simulate the brain by sounds, pictures, stories, music, and talking. Play with your children and bring them into contact with objects, people, and situations where they can learn. So one of the most important things is to refer to their wonderful bodies as girls' and boys' bodies and help them appreciate all physical skills, including tying their shoes, throwing, running, and coordination. Play physical games and help them develop a positive body image, as I've mentioned. Now, what parental impacts will help out? It's this one: encourage more than you criticize. It's like, okay, you can do this. You can walk, you can run, you can jump, you're doing great, keep going. We do that pretty well when they're young. But it's also important to learn it ourselves so we can do it with children when they grow older. Now, another impact parenting practice is to build your children from within. And what that means is that we want to help them develop positive feelings about their body and excitement and enthusiasm about as they grow and develop and so on, and to learn to feel these feelings that come when they move and walk and run and so on. Now let's take a look at how to promote mental development. The first 5 years of life provide a window into children's brains that parents can use to great advantage. Brain growth makes it possible for children to have an increased capacity to learn emotions, numbers, and language. This includes acquiring cognitive control over their bodies so they can think and intentionally act as they desire. Reasoning about time and space, learning to read, evaluating things are good and bad, learning numbers and language, and demonstrating levels of inquisitiveness and interest. Now, brain growth is rapid, and children's brains need to be frequently fed by new opportunities to learn. So here's what you do. You can help teach language, numbers, increase words they know. Play games that invite them to use memory. Tell stories about how children become smart. If possible, provide objects that they can touch and play with that will stimulate their 5 senses. And then provide opportunities for them to move around. You can develop a practice of reading, explaining, showing, and giving them actual context so they can learn. In our day and age, our children are faced with the need to learn much better than we learned. And that is because the information flow that is going on in our society forces them to process information much faster than we did. The time where you could lie on the grass on your back and watch a cloud go from horizon to horizon apparently is past. We are now sitting in front of computers, that is, our children are, and they are just soaking in all sorts of ideas and so on. Well, what parental impact practice will help this out? You can prepare more than you punish. That is, teach your children these mental skills and then invite them. And when they don't get it right, then to prepare again. And then also to learn to communicate more than you control. Come on, we can do this. You're doing just fine. Tell me what you think. A 4-year-old or a 5-year-old is very bright, and you can say, what are you thinking about this? And what do you think about that? And get their brains going. Now let's take a look at how to promote social development for children younger than 5. Social development includes creating a secure attachment with parents, as I've talked about, trusting them, smiling and gazing, responding when others talk, adapting or adjusting how they show their emotions according to the situation. And they can learn conversation skills, talking and listening, playing cooperative friendship skills, including loyalty, how to give compliments, knowing how to participate in several different situations, and so on. And you might think, whoa, gee, do I have to do all of those? Well, here's your choice. They're going to be given opportunities to learn all those skills inside your family. So you just as well start some kind of a teaching or training program that allows them to learn one by one and practice and so on. My family, we had a Monday night meeting where we taught these social skills and practiced them all week. And then our children would forget them and then we'd practice again. And pretty soon we got to the point where we could talk about some type of social skill and explain to them how this will help them be good friends and the friends will like them and so on. Now, what about the parenting impact practices? Well, here again, you communicate more than you control. But more importantly than that, in this case, you practice positive alternatives to less successful behavior. So when they don't get it right, instead of yelling, screaming, or berating them in any way or ignoring them, have them practice the positive alternative. If they can't listen and they ignore or interrupt, you say, hold it. And then, come on, we're going to practice this. You involve others and you individualize, which means that you get other people to participate and you show in your family how each individual deals with this situation, deals with that one, and so on. So you can help your children while you're teaching them social skills, how to recognize the differences in people. Well, let's go to the next one. We promote emotional development. Children inherit at least 5 emotions: surprise, anxiety, anger, disgust, and a happy or pleasurable feeling. So they've already got some of them there. And children can develop other emotions such as love, cheerfulness, sadness, and frustration. You get the point. Now, whether positive or negative, children can learn from their parents and other family members. Learning positive emotions will save you a lot of frustration later on. So if you want to be positive and hopeful and cheerful and loving with your children, good for you. But if you have a hard time doing that and you're negative and critical and so on, I think you'll pay eventually, and your children might as well. So here's what you do. You display examples of positive emotions and help children learn their names. This is what love is: happiness, warmth, kindness, cheerful, gladness. Write the word. Kids are a little older. Show them facial expressions. This is what gladness looks like. And then let's practice it. Let's go be glad with a brother or sister. Now, when children express negative emotions, listen to and understand them rather than shut them down. Help children. Now, sometimes crying, for example, is a good thing to say to a child. It's okay. Everything's fine. I love you. You can stop. But don't yell at them to say, stop that. So you have to learn, in this case, to help children learn to change a negative emotion, anger, frustration, sadness, and unhappiness, into something positive. So you ask a child to communicate about their feelings some of the time without forcing them, and show them how to be aware of other people's feelings if they choose to, and to understand their own emotions. When children cannot adapt their feelings for any situation, when possible, start over and give them a do-over. So I'll give you an experience. 3 of my kids, I think there were 3, I picked them up, rounded them up actually, and took them in the car, and I was going to do some errands and then go get an ice cream cone. But I didn't tell them. When they got in the car, which is a new situation from where they were playing, they got into an argument with each other. Now, by this time, I was a little smarter than when I was a younger parent, so I didn't say anything. I just drove around the corner, came back to my own home. We went back in the living room and said, okay, we're going to leave. We're going to go in the car, and this is what the rules are for the car. Sit quietly and talk and so on. Then I finally told them what I was going to do. So they all knew that I had 3 or 4 errands, and then we'd get ice cream. Now, please understand that when children cannot adapt their feelings for one situation to another, and you start over and give them a do-over, if they can't do it, something might be wrong. And that is when you go to a pediatrician or a child psychologist to say, my child cannot adjust his or her emotions from one situation to another. So what are the parent impact practices? Love, warmth, and gratitude. You love enough to set some firm but flexible examples. And you say, here are the limits to these emotions. If you have a temper tantrum, we're going to practice being calm and so on. And then resolve more than you isolate. Keep kids talking with you and don't just push them away when they have emotions you don't like. I have sat on the side of the child's bed more than once, having them eat something good while I'm telling a story, and then I go back the next day and do the same thing just to help them overcome the fear of the dark when they go to bed. Because they have a friendly bed, and I know it's friendly because you get to eat nibs or some other piece of candy. I repeat, express love and warmth and gratitude, love enough to set firm and flexible limits. Here's what we do here, this is what we do in that situation. And when kids don't do it right, just come and talk to them and resolve more than you isolate. Okay, now what about moral development? Well, moral development turns out to be a truly significant part of life for children under 5. We think, well, they don't know much about right or wrong or good or bad. Oh, yes, they do. And it's a functional time to help them learn. It is in this stage that children first learn what helps and harms people. And what helps and harms people is the basic law of morality. Now, children are born with a primitive concept of empathy, and then they expand it. They acquire an understanding of rules and a sense of right and wrong because of the rules. That's why rules are important. They can form a conscience and a sensitivity to consequences if they do something wrong or which harms themselves or someone else, and someone helps them understand what the consequences are without berating them. They just say, come and let's look at this. What happened to you? What happened to these people? They can also learn about self-control and especially delay of gratification. You can teach and discuss with children about what helps people and harms them, and then actually get involved in helping one another and your family. Tell stories that show examples of what helps people, and ask your children to do the things that will help others, and avoid doing the things that hurt others. Explain that it is usually wrong to do something that harms someone. Identify and give children limits on the language they use. When a child does something to hurt themselves or another person, instead of simply punishing them, take the time to calmly talk with the child about how what they did affected other people. You can teach about self-control in this manner. Now, what about the parent impact practices? Well, love enough to set firm and flexible limits. These are things that you do and don't do, because these things help people and these things hurt them. Build your children from within. You ask them to identify their feelings when they see something sad or when they help people. What does that feel like? And give them a chance to voice their opinion when they see situations. You tell them a story and say, gee, what should you do? You can tell even an older story and they will sure get it. One of them is about the time when a mother had a daughter who went to a party. All the girls there decided to form a clique or a club, but leave out her daughter's best friend. So when the daughter got home all excited about joining the special club, the mother wanted to know about her friend. Was she there? And her daughter said no. And then she said, what are you going to do about it? She said, well, I don't know. They don't want her in the club. And then the mother said, tell me what your friend will feel, and tell me what you will feel if you do that. Now, why take the time to do that? Because most of the time when faced with a moral dilemma, we want children to identify their feelings if they honor a moral behavior and dishonor it. In each case, what will you feel? Now, how do you go about doing all this? Well, you can design predictable family practices and nurture treatment of children so they'll trust you and they'll learn to successfully participate in your family. It's truly a wonderful kind of experience to have children so comfortable and safe in their family. They play together, talk about, and so on. The other day, I was sitting in church, and I looked forward and saw a girl whom I assumed is a sister lay her head on her brother's shoulder, and they sat in the church meeting like that. I thought to myself, you could not pay for that. If you can get a sister and a brother to be like that, that contributes to both people and to the family. So you may have to teach your family how to be loving, to express warmth, how to be capable of doing things that matter. You might have to have family meetings that create feelings of belonging. You might have to create a positive climate, set an example of good social skills. Now, here's what I'm going to suggest to you. I have watched in my professional life with parents dealing with kids who the children just remove themselves from their parents' influence. They might be 14 or 15 or 13 or 17 or 18. Well, why do they do that? Because they don't trust the parents, A. B, they're doing something wrong, and C, they're not willing to learn from their parents. So what do you do? Well, if you talk to their parents, they might say, well, we've done everything, and you have to add that, we've done everything we know about. But when they are helped learning how to go about things in a different way, the child's behavior changes, and so do the parents. I'll give you an example. Just the other day, a set of parents actually took away the car from one of their sons who had a drug test, and it was shown to be positive. Well, then we say, well, what does all that mean? And they were going to set up 5 rules that he had to follow in order to get use of the car back. All good. Rules are good when they're used that way, in my opinion. But I said, why don't you instead say you can get the car back when you show evidence that you know that we love you? I'm going to repeat that. You can have the car back when you show evidence that you know that we love you. Now, why do that? Well, first of all, it's about an inward condition. We want him to feel feelings, this boy, all of our kids. But more importantly, we want them to feel that they are loved and cared for. And you ask the question, well, how do kids act when they feel like they're cared for? Well, I don't think they do self-destructive things as easily. I don't think they are as defiant as easily unless they have some kind of a mental or cognitive problem. And I don't think they isolate themselves as easily when they know or feel they're loved. So in this case, their son might say, well, I don't know how to do it. Well, that's right. And he's doing things and he feels bad and wonders, my parents won't love me because I'm doing these bad things. Not true. His parents love him quite as much and more than their own lives. But if he doesn't know it, then we have a problem. We want to pay attention to these 10 impact parenting practices while we promote development so that we have our children motivated to follow us and stay with us throughout their lives. In this day and age, if we go about it the right way, we can get marvelous families, have the best experiences ever. Your children, of course, will exercise their own freedom to choose, but by and large, they'll stay with you, and you can have warm and wonderful family relationships throughout your children's lives and your grandchildren's.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Do What Matters Most, which is sponsored by firstanswers.com, where you can find new tools for families and parents of 21st century kids with a focus on emotional self-reliance. Visit firstanswers.com to sign up for a free newsletter. Find Do What Matters Most on Facebook and our website, mattersmostmedia.org, where you can ask Dr. Scoresby your own questions. Remember to subscribe to stay up to date with new episodes. Give us a rating and write a review on the podcast app or Google Podcasts and let us know what you think about Do What Matters Most. In an effort to promote good things for families, visit inevitableobjects.com, an online art gallery featuring a curated, thoughtful, and beautiful selection of original, one-of-a-kind artworks for your home. Inevitable Objects is currently featuring an exhibition of abstract paintings by Adam Bateman, exploring the relationship between mankind and the land in the American West.